and Alyssa next. So whenever
Hello.
you guys, hello, how are you?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
Hi, Lisa.
Okay.
So whenever you guys are ready, feel free to introduce yourselves and take it from there.
Alrighty. Give me 1 second. She just shares the screen. Can everyone see it?
Yes.
Perfect. Alrighty. Yeah, so hi everyone. Thank you so much for being here today. Alyssa and I are excited to present to you Declassified School Survival Guide, How to Thrive in Communication Design.
We've been working and developing this project for about a year now, and we're excited to share our story with you.
And we'll introduce ourselves in the next couple slides, but again, welcome and thank you for joining us. Before we get into the project, we just wanted to tell you a little bit about ourselves and some of our inspirations. So for those of you who don't know us, we are Janina and Alyssa, and we're seniors in the MassArt Communication Design program.
We've been friends and collaborators since the beginning of our junior year and have helped each other through our highs and lows during our time in the program.
I'm Janina, and I've been at MassArt for all 4 years. I came from a vocational high school, and I knew that I wanted a career in design ever since then.
And my name's Alyssa. I transferred here as a sophomore after completing my associate's degree in design at community college. I became interested in design after attempting to go to business school and realizing it wasn't for me. I needed to do something more creative.
And so all our time at MassArt, we kind of boiled it down to these couple of things. One, we love our school. We love our faculty, but most importantly, we love our community.
All of these things have come together to make us the prepared and well-rounded emerging designers we are today. We owe our success to each other and all of these special people.
And MassArt has given us so much. We found our people and our place in both the professional and creative world.
But don't let our professionalism fool you. While we can pull it together when we need to, this is what we usually look like.
Most of the time, we are stressed, tired, overworked, and generally have no idea what's going on. It's a mess, but people say that's the process.
This culture we've become a part of has some unwritten rules about what it takes to succeed. These include things like a certain number of all-nighters, putting work ahead of health, and saving face through all of it by presenting great work.
We wanted to break the chain.
We know there are some things we can't change, but at the same time, we knew that some suffering isn't necessary. So after going through it ourselves, we wanted to create something to help future students avoid some of the problems we faced.
Which brings us to our question, and what got us there. Thinking about how we could use design to help our fellow students, we needed to create a researchable question that we could solve.
And to even start thinking about our question, we need to figure out our audience and what their needs are. Luckily for us, we kind of are our audience. As mentioned before, we love our community, so our who is our peers, future colleagues, and lifelong friends.
And by focusing on what we know best because we lived through it and watched our peers experience it, this would help us discover the problem areas we would address. So our what is how can we use design to make resources accessible to communication design students in order to improve their academic experience?
But getting to this question wasn't so simple.
So there was a lot that happened in between where we started and where we are now. So let us tell you the story of how we got to our question before we could even begin to answer it.
Like all design projects, our process began with research. For us, this meant drafting questions, gathering publications, and collecting some firsthand accounts from our audience. The question that we started with and eventually changed is, how can we use design to make a safe space for students in crisis and put them on track for success?
Originally, we were interested in addressing the mental health crisis we were witnessing at our school. We knew there was a way that we could improve the experiences our peers were having, even without being medical professionals. So we started our research by finding publications on mental health in reference to college students and creatives. This included web articles and books.
There weren't a lot of resources that were specifically about mental health in art students, but we were able to find some connections between mental health studies and publications by designers on their experiences in art school. Something that stood out to us and something that we could very much relate to is this quote from College of the Overwhelmed by Richard Caddison and Teresa Foy DiGeronimo.
College students today are more driven to succeed than any other generation before them and are more likely to break down. This put our problem in its simplest terms.
This drive to succeed is so overwhelming and has visible repercussions within our program. We can see it in our peers and most definitely within ourselves.
And college is no joke. Even just the transition from high school to university is enough to cause major stress.
We thought that this TED Talk clip summarized in broad terms some of the major issues we were witnessing and experiencing well.
So here's the thing. There's no question that college is a really complex time in a young adult's life. We're asking them to make a lot of transitions in their life. The transition to adulthood, right? Being on their own for the first time, making choices for themselves. The transition to a career path. What's my major? Do I like what I'm studying? Is it the right choice? And the transition to self-identity. Who am I? Who do I want to be? Who do I want in my life? And all of these transitions come with a lot of social and emotional and academic challenges and changes. And for many students, they'll go through these changes with very few bumps and work towards graduation and moving on in their lives. But for others, things get really complicated. And daily tasks become extremely difficult. They feel extreme pressure to succeed. They struggle maybe academically with their work because perhaps it's not the right choice. Socialization becomes hard. They don't either know how to make friends or they'll withdraw from the friends that they have. We've seen that for many, pre-existing mental health issues get exacerbated and daily tasks and things become difficult.
Dr. Zarin goes on to note some sobering results from the American College Health Association. 40% of students reported severe depression.
60% of students reported overwhelming anxiety.
And a majority, 2/3 of students do not seek help.
Even though the study just focused on college students at large, we suspected they might apply even more so to art students. And with this in mind, we began our interviewing journey. We weren't entirely sure what we would uncover, but we knew that it was important to get a full spectrum of accounts from students, faculty, and staff at MassArt. And we first began interviewing our staff and program faculty. We wanted to discover what a crisis is at MassArt and how well they think it's handled.
We developed some talking points and were able to deduce some major points we gathered from each interview.
Since we couldn't define what a crisis was for our audience, we decided to find out how professors and advisors might define them.
Their definitions broke down into 2 categories. When circumstances cause one, when a student's safety is at risk and requires outside intervention, and essentially they recognize a crisis as either an emotional experience or a critical experience.
And we then asked them how well they thought MassArt supports its students. It was interesting to get both perspectives of staff and faculty.
We found a pretty prevalent disconnect between faculty and staff, even in areas where you might expect collaboration as it involves students. In many accounts, faculty expressed confusion on what process they were supposed to follow in helping students showing signs of crisis.
They knew that resources existed, but there wasn't one path they could follow, and it's hard to make a general process when each case is different and needs its own unique accommodations. But one of the most important things we heard from faculty was their enthusiasm to support a central resource for mental health at MassArt.
We thought this quote summed it up nicely. There's a lot out there for college students and student mental health crisis, but I'd love to see something specifically for art school / design school students and their faculty staff.
And so then once we got the information we needed from the people running the school, we were ready to see just how well these ideas translated in the eyes of the students. We wanted to get real life stories about difficulties and challenges that students faced at MassArt. And even though we scheduled a good amount of interviews, we knew there was a better way to get opinions from more people. So we made a worksheet that let students tell their thoughts about school and littered it through the studio.
Students love talking about how much they suffer. I mean, we made a whole degree project on it.
So our worksheet had 4 major sections. The first one was to let them chart their stress levels and emotions from the beginning of the semester to the end of the semester. And so in a lot of cases, in this graph right here, like a student will end up start off pretty good, but of course, over the course of the semester and with things getting harder and deadlines coming up, the curve dips and, you're kind of maybe representing a little frowny face by the end of the semester. Or maybe you don't even begin like good, even, or even if you don't get off to a good start to begin with. Or for in this case, this person started off really good, was doing really good throughout the semester, but at the very end, it just kind of fell off the cliff. Or you're like this person where you just experiences a whole lot of highs and lows during your time.
Bottom line, nobody has a good time during or around reviews. Some people go through a variety of stress levels over the course of the semester, but they all pretty much end up the same.
And then our second section continued to focus on stress, but we asked the students to name exactly what the stressors were and how they coped with it. And so for a lot of cases, a lot of students said they're really stressed about money. For example, paying their apartment or getting a job or an internship after graduation, among other things with school, etc. And so for some people, they cope with stress pretty well. They take breaks, they drink tea, and they try to discern what actually matters. But in a lot of cases, people, they just do not cope well. And then
we found that a lot of our fellow students have unhealthy coping skills, including drinking and substance abuse, while others just ignore the problem altogether. A commonality between a lot of them, though, was relying on friendships and someone to talk to.
And the next section was about resources on campus. We wanted to know what our classmates were aware of and if they use any of them.
Across the board, many of them have heard of the two major resources on campus, ARC and Counseling and Wellness, and a good handful have utilized those.
And while it's good to know that many of our peers know what ARC or Academic Resource Center and Counseling and Wellness are, in reality, there are much, much more available. This is the actual list provided by a student who knows what the resources are because they work for ARC itself.
We realized that one of the major problems in what resources students knew about was how they defined what a resource was. Many of them didn't consider the library or the president's office as a student resource, among others.
And in our fourth section, in thinking about how our peers are the most utilized resource in the studio, we decided to get some advice from the students we interviewed to share with other students.
The advice we got was honest and moving. A lot of them said things like, make sure you surround yourself with hardworking, creative people.
Nothing is more important than your mental health and well-being. You come first.
And know you will get through this.
And so after a lot of thinking and revising, we were able to reduce all this information into three major findings. The first was that every student experiences a crisis at some point during their time at Mass Art, whether it's personal, academic, or professional.
The second was that most students showed unhealthy ways of coping and were unaware of most resources at Mass Art.
And three, the community is one of the most valued and utilized resources in the program.
These main pieces would be the basis for our final direction and deliverable.
And so our original direction was to create a system of printed and digital pieces that could act as a guide to the resources at Mass Art. The idea mainly focused on the physical aspect of our guide. When talking to Jenny Knott from Counseling and Wellness, she emphasized that a method we could use as non-medical professionals to help students was to give them something that that could make them focus on the present.
So we created the idea of a tactile planner. It would be interactive in a way only design students could love. We plan to have paper samples and guides that would show students how to print correctly and order paper online. It included tear out crisis forms that would be filled out and slid under professors' doors when students needed help, and listed all the contacts they could possibly need at Mass Art.
We were really excited to begin planning all of the contents that would fill this planner, and we were developing ideas about making different inserts for each year so that students could get more specific guides to getting through each semester. But then all of that changed with COVID-19.
We hoped the school closure would only last the first week, but it was quickly updated to remote work for the rest of the semester.
And with the sudden loss of so many facilities, we had to rethink of how we can make our own project, and more importantly, what this closure meant for our target audience. In some ways, our project ultimately benefited from this, having both ourselves and our peers thrown into an unexpected crisis. It made us think about problems we hadn't even considered. So our new plan was to transform the student planner into an entirely digital experience.
At first, we thought our project was completely shot. We were relying so much on the physical planner that the thought of bringing this into an online platform felt kind of devastating. But after wallowing in our misery for a couple of weeks, we pulled ourselves together, used that classic most utilized resource, and motivated each other to continue making something that would be just as impactful, if not more. So we tweaked our researchable question to reflect the new normal before we wanted to figure out how to use design to help students in crisis. After the virus hit, we evolved that goal to solve a specific crisis we knew everyone was experiencing.
And just to reintroduce the question, it's how can we use design to make resources accessible to communication design students in order to improve their academic experience? And so comparing our old plan, the original plan included this simple list of resources, but after COVID-19, our list was cut down, but not by much.
And because this deliverable would be online, we could actually include way more pieces than we planned to before.
We were lucky that our project could be moved into a digital space, but with coronavirus, we were faced with all sorts of brand new challenges. We had adjusted to working from home and collaborating remotely.
Which meant hours upon hours of FaceTiming and Google Docs upon Google Docs of notes. We had to learn Figma, which is a collaborative tool for designing interfaces. It allowed us to work on the same document at the same time, which proved to be invaluable.
And then after brainstorming everything we wanted to include in this digital guide, we looked for inspiration that turned into wireframes that turned into our final product. And so this is what our inspiration.
Going off the style direction we developed for the planner, we quickly made mood board for our website. We were heavily inspired by Catherine Heath's type checklist, which you can see in the top right corner.
Yeah.
So we create, and after that, we created a sitemap to
This is our last week of classes, and next week is reviews.
Hey, if
So yes,
those of you that are presenting could be on mute, that would be great.
So after that, we created a sitemap to visualize all the things we wanted to include on our website, from graphic design resource page to a staff and faculty directory. We wanted a full encompassing experience that had all the tools.
Am I okay?
For master
Oh my God. This is the best thing to ever.
Okay. Well,
our wireframing phase had to be quick because of our new time crunch. So we worked together in Figma to plan out where things would live on each page. We worked out the general layout and sizes of each piece, and once we got that figured out, we went straight into designing the final site.
and then, of course, there was a lot of content building. So everything that you're about to see, we wrote ourselves. We had to dig a lot in order to get, all the classes information, things like that. But we're really excited for you to, for us to unveil our final product to you.
Introducing the first digital guide for Mass Arts Communication Design Program.
And just a moment while we transition over into our prototype. Alrighty, so this is our homepage. So this would be the first thing that you'd see when you opened up our website.
Sorry,
Nice big
Janina, I think you have
welcome.
to switch which screen you're showing.
Oh, I do. Wait, sorry. There you go. Wait, is it working? All right.
Yes.
Okay. So this is the home screen that you'd be presented to once logging on to the website. So this home screen kind of has a quick overview of everything you can find here. A little project description. We have popular topics such as like a request form. This is for like equipment, that maybe you can request and let them know the department that you want, information on reviews, a whole section on internships, and our lovely faculty. And down here we have latest events. So this would either be school events, industry events, or any news coming from the department. And down here we have a little section of want to help out. One of the important aspects about this website is that it's all student run. And so we'd always be looking for students to help out, to help either run the website, administrate the website, or gathering content for it. And then here we have our resources page.
This was kind of like the crux of our project. Like everything we collected, we organized into bite-sized chunks, and we kind of presented it in ways that could either be casually explored, or if you're looking for something specific, you know, you can really like hone in on what you're looking for. So you could just look at graphic design in general and see all the resources there. And then, you know, we listed things like book recommendations so students could expand their knowledge. We listed a lot of like design industry things so students would start kind of introducing themselves to the industry. And then a lot of stuff on like printing and paper because, oh my God, that is like the hardest part of starting the GD program. So we could look at, you know, an example of the book recommendations. Something that we thought was valuable for this part was that, you know, these books are kind of expensive, but we found PDFs for them. And so we thought that being able to offer like the option to download the PDF or the option to buy the hard copy so that everyone would have access to these things would be really helpful and impactful for the students. And then at the bottom of like every article page, we have related articles so they can, you know, keep browsing if they feel like it.
And over here is our directory. So this is kind of like the phone book of all the Mass Art program faculty and staff offices. So here is our lovely communication design faculty. Right, we'll go to the next page. Let's see what Martha's up to. So our profile, this is what a profile page would look like. You have a nice photo, a little bio, and we'll let the students know what courses they're offering and they're teaching, their office hours, and how to contact them. Go back, and if you toggle, you can toggle through faculty or staff offices. And here you can, has all the information on all the offices like ARC, CCP, Career Development, etc., and where to locate them. Then over here, this is our program overview page. So this is where you could go to figure out like what to expect during your year. So if you're like an emerging sophomore, if we can expand on this list and it'll give you a nice overview of what to expect. So for fall semester, you have like sophomore studio, your introduction to typography, some description for your spring semester, and of course we have a big section on reviews. And same thing with junior year, senior year, etc. And then in our events tab, this is everything. So yeah, this is here you can find events happening both inside and outside the classroom. So it's categorized by, for example, this week. So these are all the events that are happening this week, including the symposium. There's an AIGA event happening. And then we have things for next week, like reviews, and then we have other things for upcoming in the next month or so. But let's see, let's RSVP for a symposium. So this is what an event profile page would look like. There's a description, you have time, place, and who to contact if you have any questions. Let's go to our internship page.
So this page kind of tells students like how to even get an internship or how to interview, how to dress for your interview, like where you can find internships, like good resources for it, because finding a creative internship is really daunting and it's kind of hard. It's like who you know, but you know, when you don't know anyone, how do you get one? So this just kind of like tells them like the do's and don'ts of applying for internships, how to write cover letters, the whole nine. And we all, like, again, we wrote all of this stuff, all of these articles. And, at least we got to put all of our failures and wins, I guess, to good use.
And lastly, we have our community page. So this is where you can stay connected to the communication design community. So recently this year, the CD faculty created a Slack channel. So this is where if you're not already invited, if you're a student, you can request an invite, or if you're an alumni and want to stay in touch with MassArt, you can always request an invite. And then down here, we have some things that are recently posted on Instagram from our community. You can use like the hashtag MassArtCV. You can see the latest updates. But that's those are the main parts of our website. And let me just quickly transition back into the keynote. I think I'll have to share a different screen again. Alrighty. Perfect. So even before getting into the program, or like before even getting introduced to the website, a student upon orientation or beginning of the semester, this is kind of a brochure detailing what they can expect and how to use the website and etc. So this would be the cover, and this is it unfolded on the back. So we have different sections. So welcome, explaining who we are, and then how to use the website with a direct link to go to. And then on the inside, there's an about the project, the resources you can expect to find on the website, and again, how to get involved. And then as we realize, we know this website is not real yet, but if you would like it to be, please talk to your faculty, talk to us. We'd love to get opinions and thoughts from other people's if this, you would like this to be made real. And with that said, we didn't want to leave you empty-handed. So we've created, and Alyssa's going to share the link in the chat right now, a Google Drive full of all the resources we have compiled over the past 4 years. So this includes everything, typography lists, including fonts you can download, type boundaries, everything from the industry, books, UI stuff. We have our PDFs in here. And then we also have our library of typefaces, which has probably over 50,000 typefaces, which is, I know is quite a lot, but now you have no excuse for saying you couldn't find the font. And so with that, ultimately, during our time here, your community is what you make of it. Your education, your time at MassArt, everything boils down to your perspective and how you follow your path here at MassArt. And so we're gonna ask you, what will be your legacy? Thank you.
Wow, thank you guys. That was amazing. The amount of work you've put into that was just phenomenal. So I appreciate all of that hard work. And I really, really appreciate how you managed to pivot your focus so well. I mean, you know, everybody had, a lot of people had a difficult time transitioning, and I know it was hard for many people, but you use that to propel you forward in a way that was probably even better than maybe your original path. And you did so much work. So I really applaud you for that. That was phenomenal. So thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you. Like we said before, like I think everyone was pretty devastated when like with school closures and figuring out how we're gonna do all our projects, but we mentioned they kind of like benefited us, and it brought us our project into a new light that we didn't expect it to take. But we're kind of we're not happy it happened, but at the same time, we're glad that we ended up with this product in the end.
Yeah, I think even better was the way you showed your resiliency through it all and worked together and learned new tools to make it happen. And I know that's not easy, and I know working remotely can be very challenging. So kudos to you, especially how relevant it is to your topic. and being a communication design major already being, you know, a lot of work. So great job. And so, you know, I invite all of you, and those of you that have joined after I said this before, but, you know, to chime in too with your comments or questions. Feel free to jump in anytime if you have questions, or any of you that have seen this project evolve or are seeing it for the first time. We love to hear from everybody, so feel free to jump in.
I just want to say how unbelievably impressed I am with the work that you guys did on this. It's just fantastic. I can tell how much thinking was behind it, but just, you know, even the interface seems very seamless and easy and approachable. And I would be super proud to have our department make this live. So thank you. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much, Elisa. In the beginning, it was funny. It was supposed to actually be like a real website. We tested out Webflow and everything, but when it came down to it, it just wasn't working out, and we didn't have enough time to fully develop it. But while talking to Martha, we were saying we'd love to make this real. It'd be like a nice summer project.
Oh, yeah.
And of course, we'd be asking for help from fellow students and their opinions and their input.
Yeah, and thank you also for sharing all of the resources you found. I feel like that's very generous of you to you know, share all of that hard work. So thank you again. It's so nice.
Yeah, we're hoping that I remember when I was a sophomore, there's the thing like the hard drive was passed around from class to class with all the fonts, and so everyone would be like, "Did you get the hard drive? Like, did you get the fonts on the hard drive?" And it'd have everything from like we have like Lisa's old fonts, Elizabeth Resnick's old fonts, and then and it progressed from like professor to professor, student to student, and so we just wanted to compile all their information into Google Drive, something more accessible and something with a lot more room that we could fit a lot more stuff in it. So hopefully, eventually we'll send out the link into the communication design Slack too, but we want that to be shared from like generation to generation.
Thank you.
I wanted to touch on a few things. First of all, amazing job, and the actual end product I think is pretty incredible, and something you guys should be really proud of. But as I was watching, there's a few things too that I think also you can talk about in interviews or when you go to internships and jobs that are tangential to this project. And one of them two things I was really struck by. One is just the branding, right? The fact that your Zoom backgrounds are branded with your whole project, your poster. I felt that I didn't know anything. I don't know you guys. I didn't know anything about the project. I went online and looked at all the different degree project symposiums, and was struck right away what I found online. You know, how as a branding experience, this is really well thought out as well, not just as the actual project, but from a brand perspective, it's really complete. And then even down to the printed application that you have. And then the other thing that I think is a really important aspect to this project is the collaboration between you two. It's really hard to collaborate, I think, in school because of how competitive it can be. You guys are just starting out in your design careers. And so I think that speaks huge amounts to prospective employers on how you work with other people. So I think that's a huge strength, and you guys did an amazing job. And I loved how you showed that collaboration process and the different tools that you used. So not directly related to the actual project, but your process, I think was pretty incredible.
Yeah, thank you so much. Alyssa and I, we met at like junior year, and we started off with the group project, and we found that we worked well together. So it just kind of went off from there.
We're really good at making each other keep working. It's kind of like a competition for who can work the latest.
I think you guys should go out into the employment market as a team. And you should absolutely shop yourselves as a team, because you have a wonderful collaboration going on, I think.
Thank you.
Yeah, and just piggyback on what Amy and Lisa were just saying. You it's very clear that you prepared well too and practiced. And so all of those details make this whole experience of watching your presentation just so enjoyable. I was sad it was over. You know, I wanted to keep going because it was so great. So yeah, thank you again. And I was wondering, just project-wise too, I felt like it shifted a little bit in your presentation at the very beginning, or for your research portion, where you're talking so much about the struggles of being a communication design student, kind of generally, and the challenges that you face. And then it got a little more specific to Mass Arts specific. And then it became this website. And so some of the website has information on it that our current website has on it. And so I'm wondering, two questions. How would you imagine this would work together or shake hands with the current Mass Arts site? So that's question number. I'll let you answer that one before I go on to the next one. Okay. If this were to be a real project.
That's the thing we're kind of thinking about throughout this entire project. One that's not really, one that we're thinking is, I mean, Mass Art already has a website and it's really well designed already, but we wanted something more specific with more information specifically dedicated to communication design. And whereas we love our lovely Mass Art logo and the branding, we wanted something that felt more curated and specialized from Mass Art, the Mass Art website itself. And a lot of the times, while even just browsing through the website, a lot of information is buried under different tags, and it's kind of hard to find. So we thought having one generalized website for communication design students where they can easily access information would benefit a community as a whole. And we were thinking, way in the beginning of the project, we wanted to our scope of our audience to be the whole Mass Art community as a whole, but we're like, no, that's way too big. Let's not do that. So then we focused on what we know best, which is the communication design department. And we thought if this was a success, then it could eventually roll out to like different departments like fashion, animation, illustration, etc.
It makes a lot of sense. And then I'm wondering about if you ever imagined this kind of expanding to other schools outside of Mass Art, because I know being a communication design or a graphic design, you know, every school has a slightly different name of the major. The challenges are similar across students, across schools. And of course it depends if it's a BFA program and a BA program and all that, all those differences. But I could see this being very popular, you know, rolling out to other schools. And did you talk to design students at other schools outside of Mass Art? And I'm wondering if they've had similar experiences to what you found at Mass Art.
Yeah, I think, Melissa, do you want to talk about the people you talked to outside the school?
Well, I mean, I talked to like my sister because she's a design student at UMass Lowell. But it sounded like they have a lot of the same problems that we do. I feel like this website would be useful to them too. I mean, since it's student run, like the students I feel like know like the major issues in a program or like the things that they need and the things that other students need. And, you know, they'd be able to share it. So I feel like, yeah, I feel like it translates pretty well. This is kind of like the most small case study version of it. But ideally, I think that it'd be nice to share it with our school and then other schools.
Yeah, I could see this being very helpful across the board, especially for the mental health side of it, the self-care side of it. You know, being a design student is very challenging. And I think part of what I know a lot of students grapple with is that it's not perceived as challenging. The whole idea is, you know, if you want an easy A, take an art class kind of thing, where that couldn't be further from the truth, right? I think there's a sort of disconnect between maybe an art student has a friend who's a social science major or something like that, and so there's this idea that, you know, it's just so very different, and sort of grappling with that, and I think that can be hard for people. So somewhere to go to be like, no, you know, we have a lot to do. Our classes are very long and we have hours of homework for each class. And And so somehow this research shows that not to only the communication design majors, but to people outside of the program. So I think that's helpful. And then finally, my other observation about the website is that it's super great. The resources are awesome. And you went to the resources section, and I think it was you, Alyssa, who said this is the crux of the website. And I'm wondering, well, if this is the main purpose of the website is to have all of these resources, why not put that right up front, right when you log in or get to the homepage? Boom, right there, you have all of your resources instead of having to dig one level down. If this is the main part of the site where you find that people would go to the most or get the most out of, maybe that's your homepage, so people don't have to dig at all. Since you mentioned that the current Mass Art website, you kind of have to dig around a bit. So put what's going to be the most needed and what's most popular right on the homepage. And that might be helpful.
Good point.
But yeah, I have to applaud your work here. I feel like you guys did a super job, and it was so enjoyable to watch. And I have to say, I agree. Something like this would be very helpful at Mass Art and other schools too.
Yeah, and we'd be happy to talk more with faculty and Mass Art itself about possibly making this like a real thing.
And what about, I see juniors and seniors here who probably haven't seen this project before. I'm interested to see, hear from you, or do you have feedback, or would you like to see something like this go live? I see lots of chats going here. Anybody wanna feel free to unmute and chime in?
Hey guys, I'm not a junior or a senior, but I'm really honored to be invited to this presentation after talking to both of you guys a little bit about design research. So I just love to see some of your stimuli, some of those graphs that you made of people's different stress levels at different points in time. And I really appreciate the fact that both of you guys have really played an awesome job in doing the work of an entire team. Like, you guys are UI designers, UX designers, brand designers, copy strategists, copywriters, like all these roles that you've adopted. It's so awesome to see that come together in such a holistic project. And I think that really in this context of that map that you guys were showing at the very beginning, I think a really cool evolution of this, and I see so much potential in this because of that idea of contextual information, and the fact that you guys have compiled all these resources together, and the fact that you guys have written all these types of content. I really see an evolution where potentially, if students have certain accounts through your school anyway, like they could be served up certain content at certain points in time when you guys know through that user journey map that you've made, like when they're going to need certain things most. So I think because you've created such an awesome system, I can really see this helping a student along that journey.
Thank you, Kylie. Thank you so much for coming.
Yeah, I'm really honored and happy to be here. Thanks for sharing, guys.
Yes, thank you so much. So we do still have some time if anybody else wants to chime in with a suggestion or a comment. Okay, this was great. I feel like this would be so useful, and I think from the chats that we're getting here, people would love this. So yeah, let's make it live. Awesome job, both of you. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. All right, and so we have about 15 minutes before the next